When the Cruiserweight Classic was first announced, it featured some of the very best talent in the world, not only for cruiserweights, but for all weight ranges. Tajiri, Zack Sabre Jr., Kota Ibushi, Cedric Alexander, and even Daniel Bryan was performing commentary. The action was exciting, and it almost seemed as if we knew what the finale would be. But even with an unexpected finale, the Classic was a hit. And then 205 Live happened. Hi, I'm Logan with PWP, and I'm here to talk about the rise and still steadily happening fall of WWE's third attempt at a Cruiserweight division. Talent of the Cruiserweight Classic was not only shown within the tournament, but in the qualifying matches as well, as Evolve, Revolution Pro Wrestling Live, Progress, and American Combat Wrestling all had qualifying matches. And what may be surprising is current NXT UK individuals such as Flash Morgan Webster and Pete Dunne both were defeated in the qualifying matches. How interesting would it have been to see Pete Dunne within the Cruiserweight Classic? Now, as the action kicked off, you had individuals who would become future 205 Live mainstays such as Akira Tozawa, Jack Gallagher, Grand Metalik, Drew Gulak, Noam Dar, and Tony Nese all winning their first round matchups. But what the fans really wanted to see was Kota Ibushi and Zack Sabre Jr. both winning theirs, as they were on opposite ends of the tournament. So it only seemed as if the finale would be these two legendary men facing off. But as it was getting closer and closer to the end, neither men would sign WWE contracts, which then led to Grand Metalik pinning Zack Sabre Jr. and TJ Perkins submitting Kota Ibushi in the semifinals, which then led to TJ Perkins and Grand Metalik both having a tremendous match. You cannot take anything away from it. Although it was not the one that was anticipated, it was still a amazing matchup that cannot be duplicated. Now, before the match happened, Triple H did reveal that the winner would be crowned the first WWE Cruiserweight Champion. And besides the two in the finale, Akira Tozawa, Jack Gallagher, Brian Kendrick, Cedric Alexander, Noam Dar, Lindsay Dorado, Tony Nese, Mustafa Ali, Drew Gulak, Tajiri, Daivari, Rich Swann, and the Bollywood Boys, who would become Jinder Mahal's Singh brothers, all signed WWE contracts. TJ Perkins would win and become the first Cruiserweight champion this time around. What was interesting about the Cruiserweight title is the belt almost looked instantly like a toy. It was purple, and it had the silver plates, and yeah, that were the colors of the Cruiserweights, and they were trying to make it different, trying to separate it, but I, for one, did not enjoy the design from the start. I think they should have figured out a way to combine the Cruiserweight titles of old into one title, maybe even update it so that way we can see the evolution of the Cruiserweight Championship, but that was not to happen, and we still today, at time of recording, still have that purple belt. Now, Raw was the original home for the Cruiserweights, as when the brand extension happened again, they were sent to Raw, which was a little surprise to the heavier wrestling fans, only due to the fact that SmackDown was the original home for the Cruiserweights. So to see them on Raw, it was kind of a shakeup. Not to mention, whenever the Cruiserweights would fight at first, the ropes on the ring would become that purple, and I've never been a fan of the purple, and so seeing it there, it was always a reminder of the Cruiserweights. And the Cruiserweights, I love the action, but rumor had it that they were told to tone their style down. Even though the main focus of Cruiserweight wrestling is the flips and the dives and everything that Randy Orton hates. But it seemed that WWE wanted them to tone their style down. Whether this was because that wasn't the WWE style, as we would hear about when indie individuals would go to NXT and they'd have to relearn, or whether this was a health thing and they didn't want their Cruiserweights to be injured in their first couple matches, this definitely changed the way people looked at Cruiserweights. After 2 months, they would eventually get their own show. This would be 205 Live, but they would still appear on Raw. They'd appear on NXT, and now they had 205 Live. One major blow to start, I felt, was Tajiri leaving after one match on 205 Live. Now, Tajiri brought in many mainstays of ECW fandom, the original Cruiserweight fandom, and I feel that Tajiri could have been a major bridge in helping bring in Japanese talent, as he did have connections with the Japanese promotions. Another big, just blaring red flag within the Cruiserweight division is the supposed curse of Cruiserweight champions. Now, once Brian Kendrick ended up defeating TJ Perkins for the championship, Rich Swann would then defeat Brian Kendrick. And after Rich Swann came Neville, then Akira Tozawa, Neville again, Enzo Amore, Kalisto, Enzo Amore again, then Cedric Alexander, Buddy Murphy, and Tony Nese. Now, the reasoning that I am listing these individuals is because, starting with Rich Swann, there tended to be a little curse. Now, Rich Swann, of course, ended up being released by the WWE due to accusations of his domestic violence toward his girlfriend, who, coincidentally, is current Impact Wrestling women's wrestler Su Yung, the Undead Bride. Now, after Rich Swann, as I said, came Neville, and he was heavily disgruntled with the Cruiserweight division once Enzo Amore came into the fold. This then caused Neville to quit the WWE, and now he is living his life in AEW as Pac. And finally, to end the curses, was Enzo Amore, who had to vacate his second reign following publicized accusations of sexual assault and harassment. Now, with three such high-profile names for the division, especially ones that held the title, either quitting or being released, this did not look good for the still relatively young Cruiserweight Championship. It was only within the first year and a month that all of these things happened. And especially when you take into account that Akira Tozawa and Kalisto, the other champions within this time frame, only held the titles for a combined 19 days. Tozawa for 6 and Kalisto for 13. Now, speaking of Enzo Amore, he did do something for the division, because for a while, people just were not interested in 205 Live. But he made it interesting. He had his Zoe train, he had his sneaky way of winning matches, he had his heel heat, and the fans tuned into 205 Live, and they tuned into Raw to see what he was going to do each week. And it was, in my opinion, when Enzo got released that may have been the final nail in the coffin for 205 Live. To my surprise and excitement, it has not been the final nail, although they have been just slowly sludging along with Cedric Alexander, Buddy Murphy, and Tony Nese. Not to say that the individuals don't put on good matches, because of course 205 Live always has some of the most exciting matches. Murphy's title reign was one of the best reigns that a superstar has had in a long time, but at the same time it doesn't feel like a main part of the show. Even 205 Live doesn't feel like a main show. Their current roster right now is, of course, Akira Tozawa, Daivari, Gulak, Gallagher. They just signed Humberto Carrillo. They have Mike Canales, Oni Lorcan, the Singh brothers, and Tony Nese, with Drake Maverick, the former Rockstar Spud, as the GM. Now, you would think with all of these elements, as well as bringing in some potential NXT cruiserweights, or even the Lucha House Party of Kalisto, Lindsay, and Metalik from Raw, that they would still have a great show, or even a good show, but it does not happen. Even when they had Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander, as great as those matches were, they just moved Cedric, Ali, and now Murphy off of 205 Live. So once someone starts gaining just all this momentum in 205 Live, they either get fired, request the release, or they leave, which does not help, as I said, still a relatively new show for WWE. Now, I don't think that WWE wanted to put all even some of their eggs in the 205 Live basket. I think this was just a counter to Mexico's AAA promotion, Japan's New Japan, Ring of Honor, and their light heavyweights and cruiserweights and their high-flying action, and even Impact's X Division, which has always been a strong point. But when WWE saw that they weren't going to have the big names, and it shows. I mean, even people like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were originally on the Cruiserweight Classic. They've been on NXT, and even though it might help putting them on 205 Live, fans don't want to see it. You could put a Finn Balor, you could put Gargano or Ciampa, but the fans would turn on it because then it's taking them away from a main show. Even someone as popular as Hideo Itami had his time in 205 Live, and because nothing happened, requested his release. The anticipation and the love that the Cruiserweight division got from both fans and the company following the Cruiserweight Classic definitely took a nosedive, and it still to this day has not fully recouped. As I said, you have great matches. Buddy Murphy, Tony Nese, Cedric Alexander when he had the title, they put on phenomenal matchups. Even when Hideo Itami was there, put on great matchups. But they still don't get the recognition. They're relegated to pre-show. I like to harken back to Ryback when he was the pre-show stopper. That is what the Cruiserweights are. They're the pre-show stoppers. And I don't want to say I want to see 205 Live go away. But I want the Cruiserweights to just be on Raw and SmackDown. Keep the Cruiserweight title. You know, who knows? You could have someone like a Rey Mysterio or a Johnny Gargano hold it, just as long as they're not relegated to 205 Live. Because it almost seemed that as soon as that show debuted, that is when the Cruiserweights started losing whatever momentum they had. And as I said previously, any bigger Cruiserweights that could be on the show either don't want to be relegated to 205 Live, the WWE doesn't want to put them on 205 Live, or they're finding better homes in NXT, Raw, SmackDown, or NXT UK. Now, thank you for listening to this episode on the Cruiserweights. And as always, if you want to stay up to date with our videos and other wrestling news, follow us on Twitter at PWProverbs. And make sure to like and share our videos here on YouTube. If you have any questions or comments, either leave one on this video or send us an email at ProWrestlingProverbs@gmail.com. Are there any Cruiserweights that you think could help the show? Do you think that 205 Live should just be disbanded and see if other Cruiserweights can gain the success that Ali and Cedric have had on the main roster? Let us know. And as always, I'm Logan Keith with Pro Wrestling Proverbs.